Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. So across the world this weekend, we saw the sneak peeks for the new set Uprising, which is headed our way in a couple of weeks. We now have a full picture of the whole set. So I'm joined today by Kevin. We're going to go down our early thoughts, kind of some projections, and really our thoughts and takes on the set in general.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. I'm Andrew with you here as always, joined today by Kevin. How's it going, my friend?
Doing well, man. How are you doing?
Doing great. So we're sitting here hanging outside on the official interview porch. We've got the rain going in the background. Hopefully, a nice ambiance for all of you. But we don't control the birds or the wind or anything like that. So thanks for dealing with us. So yeah, before we get started, I do want to remind everybody we are sponsored here by our good friends over at FabDB. You guys know them. You guys love them. The best source on all the interwebs for deck construction, collection management, all that good stuff. When you're over there, consider upgrading your account, unlock all those additional spiffy features, the super card backs for your TTS play or whatever it may be that get you your jollies. But thank you again to all of our friends over at FabDB for supporting us and for everything you do for the community. So, all right. So Kevin, Uprising, what's your hot take? How you feeling about it? You excited?
All the heroes are not good. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's
all the heroes are not good.
They're not good. Don't play them.
And that's the cast,
we're
folks.
done. There's a lot to look at here. I think that Fi is going to be the easiest to pick up out of the three. I mean,
out of the gate, you mean?
Out of the gate, like going super wide. I mean, there was a video on Discord where the guy had like at least like 15, 16 like attacks.
Yeah, swinging for 40 billion. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was insane. And so there's Fi, and then Dromai feels like there's a bit more of a sub involved with the dragons. Well, creating the Ash first, and then invoking the cards to invoke the dragons, and then you have the dragons themselves, and then being able to use them to attack. I really like the fact that they have more allies involved here, because in previous sets, or I guess in Monarch, we had Chane with an ally and Levia had one too. But here it's like, wow, just, allies galore. We have like troll dragons,
right?
So so that's a really interesting thing that Dromai has. And then with Icelander, being more of the playing cards out of their turn to stop,
like reactive heroes, the term you were
exactly.
using. Yeah.
Right. So that's a good key term. So Icelander's more of a reactive hero, whereas like someone like Fi is more proactive, more aggressive. So it's kind of like a counterbalance between those two. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these play, not just in sealed and draft, but in classic constructed. So looking forward to the theory crafting and what people have come up with. So
yeah. Well, that's a great lead in. So because we have the pre-releases are coming this weekend, just here in a few days, right? So let's talk limited first.
Yep.
And we'll talk early limited, and then later limited, and then we can talk constructed, right? So early limited. So this weekend's going to be sealed, right? Yep. So you have less control, obviously, on what your deck looks like because you open what you get. Right, and let's just get right to it. We've seen the early results from across the world on these sneak peek weekends, and Fi's doing pretty good. And I think that's an understatement, right? So, first off, why is Fi so good early? And then how does that work out in the sealed pool?
I think Fi is really good early because he has a tremendous number of cards that are very low cost, and you're able to easily just play them right out the gate, and being able to fetch a Phoenix Flame from the graveyard, being able to play it from your hand, and taking advantage of his ability to play those at a lower cost is very valuable. And when you play in limited, you want to make your life as easy as possible when you play, right? Because then the simpler the better when you play in limited, and I think Fi is going to be the easiest hero to play. Because Dromai, like I said, requires a bit of setup with the dragons and the Icelander. Anytime you play a reactive hero in limited, it's going to be very hard. You're already fighting an uphill battle. You're not making life easier for yourself. So I guess for me, I'm going to go with the heroes that are going to be a lot easier to pilot in limited. Because now, having said that, I do want to try to see if I can play Dromai in limited because I love dragons in general, and so I think and just being able to use these allies and play, having that sub is going to be really cool. So, I mean, what is your take?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, there's a lot of parallels here to be drawn to Tales of Aria, right? In that the way the heroes play into each other and there being 3 heroes. And, it kind of used to be, I mean, opening weekend, specifically back then, if you guys remember, it was if you didn't have anything good, you played Briar. That was pretty much the way it was. It kind of seems like that's where Fi defaults to. Remember that the Phoenix Flames are a token, right? So you don't have to you don't have to pull that, now, which is important because you then have these on-demand attacks, right, that you didn't need to get, right? So that's strong. And, so remember the way Fi works is that you pay 3 minus the number of chains you have, and we all have in our head looking at them, well, I want to do that for 0. But in limited, if it's say you get something into your weapon, you'd be okay paying 1 for just 1 more attack, right? So just to get that, or just to get it back to your hand so you can pitch for something. Well, I guess in that case it'd be a net. But you see what I'm saying, right? Get it back in your hand, whatever you need to do. So because things are less efficient. And then the other reason I think he's well positioned is because he has a weapon, right? The others don't to the same. I mean, they do, but not to the same effect.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler here, yeah. So, and we've seen that there aren't other. There was a lot of speculation at the time. Would there be Majestic weapons? There aren't. I mean, but that's not necessarily a factor in Sealed anyway, right? But yeah. So we've seen. I mean, I think at the very least he has pay 2, swing 3.
Yeah.
And nobody else has that, right?
And it has the ability to get goal again if you have 2 or more draconic cards in the.
Well, you only need 1.
Oh, you only need 1.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Pretty easy.
So I agree. I think fundamentally he just lines up better in a limited card pool. So yeah. But Dromai, let's talk dragons, right? Because I think that's the big thing, right? Is it's very difficult to get in limited. Let's be honest, it's going to be difficult to get the majority of the dragons out. But once you get it out, I think that's very strong,
right?
Because it's going to be harder to kill.
Yeah.
So how do you see? I know you've got some notes on some dragons. How do you feel that?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have these dragons in play if you're able to get them. One of my favorite ones that I would love to play in the limit if I can get it is Vinserikai. It's a dragon that is 6 attack, 1 has 1 life as an ally, and when Vinserikai hits a hero, he deals 3 arcane damage to them. And in something like limited, that's going to be very valuable, right? Because 3 arcane damage, that's a lot to take. So and keep in mind, in limited, you don't have your skull cap, right? So you have to find different ways to prevent the arcane damage. So in this case, you would want to use something like the Aether Ashwing to be able to prevent that damage. But that in itself is going to be very difficult because you have to have 3 of those. But
then it's Dromai on Dromai, right?
So. Right. Yeah. So and then there are a couple dragons. I'm totally blanking on the names, but they are what. They're really powerful, right? I think was it something with Optimi?
Oh, Dracona optimized. That was the first one. So he's the big boy, right? He's the big boy.
Now, as appealing as that dragon is, it is not realistic to play him in the limited.
Yeah, probably not. At least not a repeatable level,
right.
For sure. Yeah.
It's like 5-6 costs. I mean, that's a lot of resources that you have to use to invoke a dragon, and then the fact that it can be popped. Since the ash goes under the dragon, right? So there's that.
Yeah,
too.
he's 6 cost. Yeah, you're right. 6
right.
cost. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think I do want to try to draft Dromai if possible because I the idea of being able to evoke dragons is really appealing to me. But yeah, I mean, if I want to have the best chance to win, I think 5 is going to be the way to go. Because like I've said before, I want to make life easier for me when I play limited. You know, I don't want to overstress too much about it. So yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, we're not skipping over Icelander at all. But Icelander she's a little more straightforward in her complication in that if she doesn't get the right cards, especially in your sealed pool, if you just don't open the blues,
got the blues,
right? So yeah, I think that's why Icelander. I mean, Icelander's can be very strong, but not necessarily in sealed. I don't believe, right? So let's move on to draft. Talking early draft then, because you were on the dragons, which I think is a great place to go. So in draft, there would been a lot of questions with the 3 heroes. Right, I know those, visions of a 4th hero, which didn't pan out, which is fine.
That's disappointing.
But with that being a thing, right, we know that 2 of those heroes are competing over the same card pool, right effectively, right, which is the Draconic pool, whereas Icelander's kind of just doing their own thing. So how big of a factor do you think that's going to be into those 2 heroes with that competition? Or is the fact that they're after effectively different cards in that pool going to kind of split it up, right? What's your thought?
Well, if you're playing draft, I think there's going to be a bit of a competition because they do share the same card pool with Draconic, and it depends on how you're going to draft. Like because I imagine in draft you want to draft a decent number of Draconic cards, and then there's the more specialized Draconic Ninja or Draconic Illusionist. So you really have to see and gauge, like, okay, well, if I'm still seeing dragons around the table, should I draft Dromai, right? If you don't see any dragons, then go for 5, right? Because either way, you're gonna have.
Oh, so you're saying you go Draconic first?
You go Draconic first, but actually,
interesting.
But before that, if for those who haven't watched Andrew's awesome video about how to draft, when he did the Farewell to the Wraith video about that, so. One of the tips that you gave was that you always wanted to focus on getting the equipment first, right? And especially the ones that can defend or be able to, or I guess the quell ability, right? You want to get those quell equipment because that's going to be very valuable in draft because, being able to prevent damage
multiple times
before it gets destroyed before your end phase, super valuable in any sort of limited format. So, So
quick aside there, just for anybody who's watching, just bringing you up to speed on Quell. So what Quell does is it's similar to AB, or Arcane Barrier, where when there's a trigger of you taking damage, you can pay to prevent it. The difference with Quell is that it pops, all of them we've seen kill at the end of the turn. So because it's in a turn, if you are taking damage at multiple points during the turn, you can continue to pay to it because it still doesn't blow up till the end of turn. So a 3-pitch, for example, could read Quell 1, a 3-pitch could prevent 3 damage over 3 different sources, but to be clear, you can't stack on the same source, right? So you couldn't pitch 3 and do 3 because that would be Quell 3.
Yeah. Now,
clear as mud.
In that example, that's very good against Fi because Fi has a lot of these small attacks, right? So Quell's gonna be very valuable. You gotta try to have Quell equipment if you can.
Yeah. But there's a lot of equipment in this set. So
there are, yeah.
But anyway, so back to the dragons.
Yep.
Let me ping you on that because I think that's the conversation of early draft versus late draft, or young draft versus mature draft, right? So early on in young draft, everybody's trying to get the cards they want.
Yeah.
And like if you open a really cool dragon and you don't have it yet, you're probably just going to pocket the dragon.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean, why wouldn't you, right? But later on, right, if you're playing competitive drafter and you're actually there to win, you might pass those dragons because, like you said, like, am I really going to play Dracona Optimi, right?
Right.
So how does that pan out? I mean, does that early on in draft then make Dromai basically impossible to play?
I don't think so. I mean, because like with limited, I mean, you're realistically you're not gonna get access to all the dragons, right? So I would think
probably can't play them all anyway, right?
Yeah, you can't play them all anyway. I actually want to mention one more thing. If you're able to get a dragon like Thamai, where she has the ability where opponents can't play cards or activate abilities during your turn, that is an instant shutdown for someone like Icelander, who relies on using blues to do that. So, yeah, I think depending on what dragons you get, it's going to be very intriguing in the matchups. So I think for my case, I would want to opt out to just try to play 5. I'm not able to access those dragons. But if I do get at least a few dragons, then yeah, I'm going to try for Dromai.
Okay.
Which is going to be a bit harder to do. But I think that's part of the challenge, right? Part of the fun of drafting is trying to see if you're able to, come up with a game plan on the fly and being able to use these dragons to your advantage. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting point you brought up about going Draconic first, right? Because, a 1 for 5 or a 0 for 4 is still a 0 for 4, right?
Yep.
Which is still pretty good and limited, regardless of if it fits into your game plan or not, right? Regardless of if you're because there's I forget the card, but it's a 0 for 2 that gets +3 if it's ruptured.
Yeah,
that's still pretty good.
Pretty good,
right? So, yeah, even if you don't trigger rupture, it's still a 0 for 2. So,
yeah, and also Dromai can use Phoenix Flames too, because Phoenix Flame is a draconic attack.
Right.
It's not just limited to Draconic Ninjas. So
she just doesn't get them back.
Yeah. So there's another tip: try to be able to use Phoenix Flames when you can, and whether you're playing Dromai or Phi. I mean.
It's a token.
It's a token, yeah. So you can use, and you're limited to up to 3. I mean, that's still pretty nice to use in limited. So, if dragons are not going to be a thing, I mean, but anyway, so those are like
yeah. So let's moving on then to mature draft, right? Where do you see? Because again, we were talking earlier about the triangle, right? The hero triangle, and what we mean by that is we saw it to a certain extent in Tales of Aria, but for the most part, Phi looks like he's probably going to rip the snot out of Dromai, right? He's going to be able to pop Ash Wings, get those on hit effects if they're there, and just keep ripping and tearing.
The ripping and the tearing, the ripping and the tearing.
And Icelander looks like she's really going to shut Phi down hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Dromai, with her ability to have her Ash Wings out and have AB, looks to do pretty good against Icelander, right? So that's the cycle there.
Yeah.
So as that develops over time, the question becomes then how important are the dragons to Dromai? Because I guess that's maybe a better way to ask this question is, if we look at how Tales of Aria really turned out, you'd have in an 8-person draft pod, you'd have maybe, let's say, 4 to 5 Briars. You'd have 1 to 2 Oldhims. You'd maybe have 1 to 2 Lexis, right? So does Phi fit the Briar role, and then the other 2 fit in? Is the Ice Lexi? Is Dromai the new Ice Lexi because you got to have dragons, and then you realize you're just drafting, and then you're like, oh, there's a ton of dragons floating around the table, right? Is that how it plays out, or?
I think it's a good comparison. I mean, because Phi is going to be the easiest to draft, right? There's a tremendous number of cards that Phi is able to access, and I think being able to use those to your advantage, whether you're playing sealed or draft. I mean, the results have spoken, right? I mean, we're seeing in Sydney where I think most of the players in top 8 were Phi.
Yeah, all the 6-0s, right? All of them.
All of them. Yeah. So
that may not be correct, but close enough.
But yeah, so that's very. That's a very good indicator of, Phi being the one that you want to draft, that you want to play in the limited.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, fair enough. Okay, so that's sealed. Let's talk CC meta. So for you guys who don't know, he's been a long time gentleman's Briar, right? So Earth Briar player, but he's got lots of experience with Briar. So we'll put Briar on the back burner for now. But with these 3 heroes look very strong. I don't think there's any, and we're talking CC now, right? Or I say constructed. We're talking constructed now. They look very strong. So how do they fit into? So we just gained 3 heroes. We lose 2 heroes in Starvo and Chane. Good riddance. And what's it look like? Where do the new hero? Are there any sleeper heroes that can fight their way back in? What do you think?
I think Dash has a good opportunity to shine in this new meta because when Chane and Starvo were just wrecking the field, Dash had a pretty hard time against them, and now that they're about to be gone, I think Dash has a chance to shine. There's different ways to play Dash. Like our resident Dash player Adam, he's a very aggressive Dash player, so I'm pretty sure he's going to be running full speed with that. There's also different. I think there's more of a mid-range / control Dash build where you're just putting up a board state of items and just being, and then, you know, being able to use that to pump up your pistol and all that. So I think there's going to be, we'll see. I think Dash is going to be the dark horse in the meta. So.
And she runs no shortage of blues for the ice meta that we are about to move in. We also had, the day before we're shooting this, but a couple days ago as of when this goes live, we had an interview with Michael Ramsey, who was piloting Lightning Lexi down at the ProQuest in Houston. As part of that video, he thinks that Ice Lexi is going to be very strong with all the new ice cards that are picked up.
Yes, there is a particular card called Hypothermia, which I believe shuts down any chances of getting go again. So that's going to be very amazing. Because, I mean, a lot of cards in our game give go again. So it's just, I mean, naturally it's going to be very powerful. And so, and yeah, that was a great interview, by the way. I watched that earlier today.
He did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, for him to adapt from Lightning to Ice Lexi, I mean, that's really cool. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does with Ice Lexi. Yeah, I mean, Lexi's not going away. Ranger is still relevant, so...
yeah, I cannot figure out how to play Lexi, swear to God.
Oh, no.
So that's all right.
It's all good.
So any other... Well, so yeah, let's talk Briar then. So she gets some toys back, right? She gets Autumn's Touch back. She gets Skeleta back, right?
Well, Skeleta is only back if... Isn't Skeleta back if Viscera goes to Living Legends?
Oh, it's tied to Vis, not Chane. You're right.
I think
no.
we have to double check on that.
Yeah,
but that's okay. I'm not looking forward to using Skeleta.
I believe you're correct, but yeah, go. I'll look it up.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, as a resident Briar player or one of the resident Briar players, there are several cards that I'm looking forward to from this new set. Sift is gonna be a really good one. Being able to cycle.
And that's a 4-3-2 on the red, yellow, blue.
4-3-2. Right? So the red pitch, you're able to cycle 4 your cards from your hand, put back into your deck, draw 4 new cards. This is very valuable because in Briar, you want to fish out that Chow Mount Heroic, or as we would say, CMH, as soon as possible. This is going to be very valuable. So Sif is going to be an automatic include. I already know what I'm taking out already. Revel and Runeblood. I know it's a very good card. Shocking, but
no, it is. The card's crazy good. I lost a game to that thing last night.
It's a great card, but the minor thing about it is that it requires you to play a non-attack and an attack action card before you can use its full ability to create 4 rune chants. So I think that's going to be the replacement right there. And then there are other cards like Vipox or VIPOX. I don't know how to say it. But
card's phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's a 0 cost, 1 attack. And it sounds like a little card, but it has a huge ability where when it hits, the opponent loses 1 life per each card in his or her hand. So
perfect for a no block meta, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because what is that? What does blocking mean anyway, right? So that's gonna be very powerful, especially in decks that are very aggressive and don't, like as Andrew mentioned, doesn't block. So
right.
So there's that, and then one of my favorite cards that has been spoiled by Mansant. Shout out to Ethan, who he's a Levia player. He had a spoiler called Erase Face. It's a 2 cost, 6 attack, and if it hits, the opponent loses their identity, right? Yeah. for the next turn. Super powerful. I feel like it's on the same level as a Command and Conquer or a CNC. So I'm definitely going to try to get 3 of them for my my Briar. Even though I play a lot of 1-0 attack action cost cards, I think having Erase Face is going to be very valuable. Because anything that has an on-hit effect like that is just going to be tremendous. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Erase Face is similar to like a Sleep Dart, or not quite, but it does many. It shuts Viscera off.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. That card. There's been some speculation already that the existence of that card will potentially make CNC drop in price. Although maybe that's just wishful thinking by a lot of people. But
Erase Face is going to make people learn how to block again, because people, you definitely don't want to let that slide.
Yeah. So let's talk about a controversial card that you had brought up earlier in our discussion was the Crown.
Crown of Providence. Oh man, that legendary headpiece that everyone wants to get now. When it was first announced, I think Arsenal Pass spoiled it.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, I think Hayden and Brendan they spoiled it, and it was like, wow. Like, well, first of all, that's an amazing card to spoil. And
they were the Rupture, by the way, on our spoiler combat chain. It was 4 of us in a row. They were the Rupture with the legendary. Go.
There we go. So with Crown of Providence, immediately after that was spoiled, on the public Fab Discord, it was a huge, heated debate about, oh, this is better than Arcane Skullcap. Skullcap is done. No one wants to use that anymore. I'm like, but can't they coexist? Because then with Skullcap, you're still able to use its Arcane Barrier 3 ability to prevent Rosetta from doing arcane damage, for example. So I think they can coexist, right? I mean, it depends on the matchup. I mean, I do want to get a Crown of Providence.
Right.
Hopefully pull it in this upcoming weekend's pre-release, knock on wood. But
you're gonna get it in your 6-packs.
That'll be great.
Yeah. Done.
Yeah, that'll be my pre-release. No, but yeah, I think that's gonna be one of the hottest cards to get, right? Because it's generic equipment, so anybody can use it.
Right.
So
it has Blade Break.
Blade Break 2, which is really good, and I think when it defends, aren't you able to
you cycle
a card, right? Yeah. And for Briar, being able to cycle a card to draw another one is very valuable, especially when they fish out that CMH. So
yeah, I think that's going to be the official Runeblade helmet. I think that's a fair assessment.
Definitely,
absolutely, yeah. Well, cool. Anybody else you think is hot into the new meta? So we talked Briar, challenges there, right? Or no, Well, so is she going to be good or is she not going to be good? How does she evolve? Right?
For Briar?
Yeah.
I think she's still going to be very strong. I mean, maybe not tier 1, but maybe tier 1.5. She's going to be still relevant.
So how does she handle? I mean, I think the question is going to be, because both versions of her run relatively lean, right? The CMH runs very lean. You have maybe a little more forgiveness in the Gentleman's version, but how do they deal with the Frostbite meta?
Oh man, it's never easy. I think it's gonna be a lot harder
because it's so card intensive.
Yeah, because you want to try to hold on as many cards as you can. I mean, ideally you have one card arsenal for your hand, essentially a 5-card hand.
But you can only do 5 card. You can't do a 5-card hand every turn. Right?
No, you can't.
I guess you can snatch like a champ, but
it's
fair.
You could, but yeah. So with the CMH aggro Briar, typically I like to run 18 blues with another blue in the sideboard just in case. With the Gentleman's Briar, the Earth Briar, typically runs from anywhere from 20 to 24 blues, depending on the matchup. So I always have a hard time against any ice hero, especially Lexi. That's not going to change. So
fair enough.
So that's going to be a question for me to answer, to figure out how I can deal with that. But Ice Lexi is going to be very strong, I think. It's getting stronger with cards like Hypothermia and other ice cards that will just negate the go again from happening. So, yeah. That's,
all right. So last question for you then. All the Prism players, right?
Yep.
She's getting up there. Are we going to start seeing some converts over to Dramai? Or are they just going to stick with Prism and ride that train, ride that pony until
she goes
till it poops, or whatever the right metaphor is?
Yeah, I think Prism is still going to be pretty relevant here. I mean, because Aura Prism by itself, I mean, when you're able to create all those auras, that amazing board state, I mean, it's hard to deal with because by definition, with how the auras are structured, once you attack an aura, it closes the combat chain, right, with Spectra.
With Spectra, yeah.
Right, so, I mean, that's always going to be a threat. And then also Prism's access to Arclight Sentinel.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the difference, right? If you have, because attacking the Ashwings, each one of those is non-hit effect.
Yeah.
So you can still do stuff. Whereas, going wide, you have to chop at the hero and then end your chain. Losing, presumably, if you're doing Rupture, you're losing potentially your best. I mean, you obviously wouldn't consume the card, but you're losing your best attack there. So it'd be very interesting to see how that plays out. Prism probably seems pretty good. I agree.
Yeah, and then I was looking at this earlier. I just want to mention real quick. So, Stubby Hammers, Ban and Blitz, playable in CC.
Yeah.
Now,
and a major part.
Who's going to take advantage of that? You guessed it. Fi is going to take advantage of that.
Cards should easily be worth 4 to 5. Right.
Right.
When you're using it, should easily be worth 4 to 5, if not more. So.
Yeah, there's that, and also one of my favorite cards that I tried using in Briar, Belittle. That's gonna be very powerful.
Oh yeah, Belittle and Minnowism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it's pair.
It's gonna be interesting to see how players use these cards that are existing already. I mean, so yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think it's gonna be a really fun meta. Hopefully it's more of an even level playing field. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I do want to see heroes like Dash do well, because I think she's due for like a breakout. So, mm-hmm. I don't know. Azalea has always
never
been...
happened. Never happened.
No,
never happened.
I tried her in Blitz. I tried her in Blitz earlier this year, and even took her to a skirmish. Did not do that well, but it's okay. I mean, I think she's still a champ in our hearts. I know you've been.
I gave up.
Yeah. But there are guys out there. They're so. Oh, excuse me.
Truthers. Yeah.
They're still trying to make it work. So, yeah, I think I'm excited. I just want to open up packs right now. I know we have to wait for
like couple days, right? So we have pre-releases this weekend. If you are not in any of them yet, you can go on Gem and look up what's around you. It is Father's Day weekend in the U.S., so there's a lot of them on Saturday only. I think there's a couple. I think there's one around here, like out in the boonies over, but. No, out in wine country, actually. That could be cool. But yeah, so, go check out if you're looking for places here. I think we have a couple spots open, only a few at Gone Guy. So, yeah, should be good and should be very exciting. But with them all in the same place, keep it under 80 going in between stores, folks. No tickets. So,
no tickets, yeah. Drive safe.
That's right.
In the end, it's I know it's a game that we all love to play, but it's just a card game. Health first. I don't want anyone to get injured.
But they're shiny foils.
I know, and the marbles too. I know the marbles are going to be extremely valuable to try to obtain. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, man. I just want to crack my packs. I'm going to be participating in 2 pre-releases, so nice. I'm ready. I already have the new Dragon Shield sleeves, especially the peach ones that I want to use for pre-release. So I'm all set, man.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for popping in and joining me for today and also shooting. And I had a great day hanging out, and I know we're looking forward to this weekend. And thank you guys for joining the both of us. And do you have any shout outs you want to give before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to our amazing Dice Commando community, and thank you for being the one to set this all up. And I want to give a shout out to the players that I've been playing with for a while. Billy, Adam, Matt, Stephen Morgan, Stephen Goddard, Brandon, Sarah. I mean, and tons and other players that.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so yeah,
we're very lucky, very very lucky.
We were very lucky. Yeah, so it was awesome, and thank you for having me. It's been great. I mean, especially drinking some wine too. So
cheers.
Cheers.
All right, say it with me, man. Thank you everyone for joining, and
go Commando.